Um, very good.
That was
put a
Phil. He
note.
gets credit.
Yeah, I put a note up here. I was going to say, hey, Phil, don't forget to record. Good, very good. Justin, I didn't see him join. Krista Silva.
Yes. Here.
Yes. Greg, not here. Mary.
Yes.
Hillary, no. Brian.
Yes.
Mike Stevens.
He's here.
I thought I saw
Yep,
him.
you did. He's just muted.
Okay, I see him. Rob
There we go.
Lowe.
I'm here.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Rob here. Didn't see him. Jennifer's going to be late. Wayne, you are
Yep,
here. I
here.
see you. I am here. Mark Anderson. Looks like you're
Yes.
here. Anthony. Don't see Anthony. Matthew, I see
Here.
that you are here.
Yep.
Nick, I see
Here.
that you are here. Ken, I don't see Ken Newhouse. Josh, did not see Josh. And Charles, you are here.
I'm here.
Rob Savoy's here. Katie, I believe you are here. Yes.
Yes.
And Kevin Stone, I did not notice him come in yet. Okay, good. Way to quorum. Let me just quickly read the governor's notes here. Let me find my little cheat sheet. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, signed into law by Governor Healy on March 29, 2023, several pandemic-related relief provisions suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30A, Section 20, were further extended until March 31st, 2025. All members of the public are invited to join the meeting virtually, either by computer or phone, as noted below. If you are joining virtually, video and audio will be turned off for the public participants unless otherwise stipulated by the chair. Phil, let's see, approval. Oh, I guess I still have it. Did everybody see the minutes of the meeting of October 16th? I think Phil sent them out a day last week.
Yes.
Yes.
Anybody have any questions or edits, or since I did not attend that meeting, I did not have any comments on them. Let's see, October 16th. All right, it was a roll call vote. I'm going to vote for approval of the minutes of the school building committee meeting held on Monday, October 16th, 2023. Justin's not here. Chris?
Yes.
Greg, no. Mary?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Mike Stevens?
Yes.
You,
Yes.
Rob, yes. All right, Rob's not here. Jennifer? Wayne?
Yes.
Mark Anderson?
Yes.
Thank you. Anthony's not here. Matthew?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
And Ken, I don't see has joined. Josh, I don't see has joined. That's it for the voting members. The minutes were approved for the October 16th meeting. All right, Bill, you got it.
Okay, next agenda item, town election vote update. Congratulations, guys. We got a project.
Yeah.
So out of 1,833 total voters for the debt exclusion vote, you had 1,504 yes, 329 no. That's roughly 81 or 82% yes ratio. So great turnout, great kind of ratio yes to no, and congratulations.
Yeah, it was excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
And certainly due to a lot of people, and certainly I know others have already, but I would certainly absolutely congratulate Mary on, how do I say, being persistent. I think there's other words for that too.
Nagging. No, but
Nagging.
Josh, yeah, but Josh did a great job with the social media too. So
Absolutely.
he is owed great gratitude for that, because he had a real handle on that, which I did not.
Yes, absolutely, he did. I mean, everybody did a lot, but you're right, you two did, not to discredit anybody, I think the lion's share.
Oh, well, we just organized, that's all. I mean, everybody that, did the outreach with us, and it was
Yep.
a real team effort. So I think I put this in the email, but I love groups where I'm with a lot of worker bees, and everybody on this committee is a worker bee.
Yes.
So really
Yes.
appreciate that.
And you were the excellent nag. Thank you very much for that too, Mary.
I
You
was just
really-
gonna call her Queen Mary. That's all.
Ooh.
For all the
Nick-
worker
very-
bees.
Nick is better.
All right, Phil, go for it.
Okay. So next item, so MSBA project funding agreement. So when you complete MSBA module 4, so that's the schematic design phase, the last kind of step to that is executing the project scope and budget agreement. So that was that process where we seeked your approval back in September. Then we went to school committee, got their approval, and then select board got their approval. And then ultimately we signed off on the project scope and budget agreement. Town council put together their legal certificate, and we got that documentation over to MSBA. They sent us the fully executed version a couple weeks ago. The next step to that kind of agreement process to advancing these MSBA projects is that project scope and budget agreement then advances into a project funding agreement as you get to the end of module 5, funding the project. So that documentation was sent to us last week. We got it over to you all when we got it. And so the goal is to get your vote of approval on it tonight. And then the hope is to get on the select board agenda for when they meet next Tuesday, the 21st, and then get on the school committee agenda when they meet December 6th. So the components of the project funding agreement it's essentially identical to the components of the project scope and budget agreement. So you have the total project budget. You have the basic building design and due diligence effort that came with the design of the building, project schedule, cash flow, all the site design components and due diligence associated with the site design, FF&E budget, the required insurance that the contractor needs to carry that MSBA requires, the educational program, our reimbursement rate certificate, and then ultimately the electronic banking template so we can continue to get real-time reimbursement from MSBA. So any questions on that? Nick, you got your hand raised?
Yeah, only because I'm too lazy to go look back and don't know exactly where to look at. On page 5 is the whole percent and dollar value. Is that the updated value?
No. So when you say updated value, the recent supplemental grant no. So there's an upcoming agenda item on that topic. So the answer is no.
Is that
and there's a reason for
Yeah.
no, that's not no.
Okay.
But I'll give it to you now. So the way MSBA is doing that supplemental grant that us and some other projects are getting is they're having us projects execute the project funding agreement as is laid out in the project scope and budget agreement. Once that's done, we'll execute an amendment to the project funding agreement that provides that additional grant and reimbursement cap increase.
Can't derail in process. I understand. Just making sure that it's gonna happen. Good.
Yep. Yep.
What was the total amount, Phil, that they're getting and the extra?
Oh, so it is, and I'll just quickly advance to. It's roughly $7 million. Now that's not, and I'll get to that in more detail, but yeah, 7 million is what we're looking at.
Was that additional grant money or just additional eligibility?
Well, it increases the construction cap, so it's additional grant money, decreases
good.
local, increases state. Yep.
Yeah, good. Well, that was well deserved.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
this all gonna be understood as it goes through the various other committees you're talking about? Like we're gonna have to do this 1, 2, 3 times and then another 1, 2, 3 times, right? Basically, with the amendment.
Yeah. Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Jerry, I mean, that's essentially it for this topic. If somebody wants to make a motion.
Oh, Christ, yeah, I'm not paying a bit of attention. I'm sorry about that.
Let's wait for more questions.
Yeah, I was just looking to see if I could see any other hands come up. I didn't see anything, and I didn't have any. So, no, I lost
I mean,
track.
just in general, having not read one of these before, there wasn't anything in here that was eyebrow raising, right, Phil? Like this all looks very boilerplate, all MGL this, MGL that.
That's
Um,
exactly what it is. Yep.
Okay. Um,
And it's quite literally just an advancement of what we've already executed with them. It just says project funding agreement now versus scope and budget agreement.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I was just gonna say, so we're voting on what we technically voted on before, but with
You
a
just-
slightly, with a different title.
Yeah, and it's a requirement per the MSBA process.
Yep.
That's all.
So I would entertain a motion to approve the MSBA project funding agreement that has been put forth by Colliers.
So moved.
Any
Second.
seconds?
Seconded.
Second.
Next second,
Yep.
perfect. Okay, by a roll call. And I can't see just who's here, so I'm gonna read all the names. Justin, Krista Silva,
Yes.
Greg, not here, Mary,
Yes.
Hillary, Brian,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
thank you. Rob, not here. Jennifer, I don't see her.
Yes,
Wayne, oh, Jennifer, you're here. Thank you,
I am.
thank you. Wayne White,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mark Anderson,
Yes.
Anthony, did he join? No. Matthew,
Yes.
thank you. Nick,
Yes.
and Ken is not on, and Josh is not on. That's it for voting members. The motion passes
Thank
unanimously.
you.
Welcome.
Okay, next agenda item. So talking about the MSBA construction cost reimbursement cap increase. So at MSBA's October board meeting, the board approved supplemental grants to kind of two batches of projects. And one of those batches is the timeline of projects that we're involved in. So on the left-hand side of this slide, you'll see the construction cap for building and site work that was associated with our project scope and budget agreement. It's ultimately capped at $393 a square foot for building work, and then capped at $39 a square foot for site work. So that made our eligible building cost 34.6, our eligible site work cost 3.4 million. That gave us an ineligible construction cost of 27.17. And then ultimately a max grant of 29.4 million. So a ratio of 65% Maynard, 35% MSBA. With their new cap increase that is going to be affecting our project that was approved at their October board meeting, they have increased their eligible or cap, if you will, to building cost to $560 a square foot. So from $393 to $516. And they've increased their site work costs from $39 a square foot to, I gotta get the exact number, to $55 per square foot. So that increased our eligible site work package from the 3.4 million to the 4.57 million. So ultimately, our ineligible construction costs went down from 27.1 million down to 15.2 million. So your max grant goes from that 29.4 up to 36.4. Now, so the Maynard share goes from 65% to 56%, and then MSBA share goes from 35 up to 44%. Now, these snapshots you see are me plugging in their updated cap numbers into their total project budget template. We haven't had the back and forth with MSBA confirming these are the numbers, but ultimately these are the changes the board approved. So what's going to happen is we execute the project funding agreement, we get that over to MSBA, and then they're going to reach out to me and they're going to want to step through what the supplemental grant increase is going to be, but we're confident it's going to essentially lay out like this. And ultimately, when Nick asked, does the new cap increase, is that already in the PFA? And this is the highlighted language where I was saying, and I'll just read it. The actual adjusted amount will only be finalized once the town and the MSBA partner to amend the project funding agreement to apply the revised project funding limits. And that's the same language. We have a few other projects that are getting this supplemental grant, and that's the same language in all of them. So it's great news. I mean, our reimbursement rate with kind of the sustainable incentive points and whatnot is 58.76%. So a drop from your reimbursement rate down to 44%. So call it a 14% drop. That's catching up to where projects were 10 years ago. So they're really trying to kind of catch up with the market, if you will.
Very much appreciated.
Yeah, for sure. So that's the update on the cap increase. So again, we'll execute the project funding agreement, and then this process will happen after that. So next agenda item, project budget update. So for the past 2 years, we've been working under this $1 million feasibility study budget. Now that we have an approved project, and we submitted that total project budget with our schematic design submission, this is going to be what you're going to be seeing at the monthly building committee meetings in terms of budget update. So ultimately, we now have a full bore administration section, if you will, for OPM, advertising, permitting, owner's insurance, and other admin costs. And then you have your A&E fees to get you through closeout, special inspections, printing, other A&E costs, hazmat, geotech, site survey, wetlands, traffic. The 66.9 construction budget we've been carrying. And then your miscellaneous project costs such as utility assessments, material testing or third-party testing, swing space, we don't have that, other miscellaneous project costs, and then our furniture, fixtures, and equipment budget, our technology budget, and then contingency for construction-related items, as well as any soft cost moves that need to happen. So total project budget, $83.6 million. So that's what our total project budget looks like moving forward. And I've had highlighted here within the feasibility study budget section, the other line item, because since we last met, I approved we processed the green engineer. So that's the energy modeler that we hired to do the schematic design energy modeling. They submitted their invoice for about 90% of their schematic design effort. And that's an amount of $12,487.50. So that got plugged into the paid column here. Any questions on the budget update? And then in terms of reimbursement from MSBA, same reimbursed to date, the $470,378. And ultimately that adds up to approximately 55% your reimbursement rate of total dollars spent to date. Okay, so project timeline update. So we're now moving into the next phase of design. So you go from schematic design to design development, call it, phase 2, if you will, of a 3-phase design process. And the plan is to go from now through May. And each of these upcoming design phases have a submission to MSBA. So we're going to have a design development submission to MSBA, a 60% construction document submission to MSBA, and then a 90% construction document submission to MSBA. So we're showing those for the design development submission in April, for the 60% CD submission showing that in July, and then for the 90% CD submission showing that in October. The other big key components to the upcoming design phases are the cost estimate process and kind of going through value management and getting your eyes on that value management list and seeking out your approval as needed. So for the upcoming estimate process for the design development phase, we're showing that starting in March and going through mid-April, seeking your approval on April 15th. And then for the 60% construction document estimate process, we're showing that starting in June and going through the first quarter of July and seeking your approval then. And then for the 90% construction document estimate process, starting that in mid-September and seeking your approval in mid-October. And then while you're in design, there's some permitting tasks we're going to want to get done before we go with the bid. So we got the Conservation Commission process. We're showing getting going with that at some point in June and showing that being a 3-month duration possibly. Mass DOT will require some permitting. So we're showing that June through August. And then the local planning board site plan approval process, showing that happening June through September. And then we're showing a bid set completion and ready to go out to bid to contractors end of the year of 2024. And then,
Actually-
so for, yeah,
Oh,
go ahead, Nick.
sorry. I didn't realize you could keep going with more schedule. Is
Yeah.
there like a review and votes by us along each of these like submissions? Okay.
Yep. So, yeah, so where I have SBC approval, so April 15th here
yeah,
during.
I gotta read the all the way to the end of the line. Sorry, I was lazy eyes.
No, so that's approval 1 and DD and 60% there, and then October 14th for 90%.
I was just reading down the page, not across the page. I apologize.
No problem. And then, so this project will require a contractor pre-qual process. So we get started with that prior to going live with the bid docs. So that'll start in November. We'll pre-qualify general contractors and filed subcontractors, and we'll complete that in mid-December prior to going live with the bid docs. Get started with bidding. And the way the process works is filed subcontractors bid first, and then the general contractor bids after that. So the plan is to have filed subcontractor bidding towards the end of January of 2025, and then general contractor bidding following behind that in February. And like we've been showing and talking to the community about, having the new building and a portion of the site work done by Christmas break of 2026. And then once we got that new building occupied, start abating and demoing the existing building and finishing off the site work through those summer months of 2027. Go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, no, I just, the subcontractor bids, that doesn't happen after the bid itself, the general contractor? Like,
Nope.
it happens before. Okay, I guess I
Yeah.
thought that maybe the general contractor would be involved in the subcontractors.
No, so that's if you go construction manager at risk.
Okay, all right.
And well, I shouldn't even say that. Even when you go construction manager at risk, they don't. It's always
Filed
so
subbids.
if you go construction manager at risk, you hire the construction manager before you hire the file you have the filed subbidding process. But the filed subbidding process, if you go construction manager at risk, is identical to what it is if you go general contractor or design bid build. And we, if you recall, right around the time where we, said, okay, this is the preferred scheme, we then kind of at the next building committee meeting said, okay, this is what going CM looks like. This is what design bid build looks like. What do you want to do? We provided our thoughts, and ultimately we said, let's go design bid build. So the way the process works is we'll design the bid set to 100% completion, and both filed subcontractors and GCs will bid a 100% bid set. Filed subcontractors bid first per Mass General Law, Chapter 149, and then general contractors. So the way it works is general contractors will put in their bid who they're carrying for all the different filed sub trades. So we're carrying this roofer, we're carrying this electrician, we're carrying this HVAC sub, and so on and so on.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep. So finishing off the demo of the existing building and site work kind of through spring/summer of 2027. And then on any MSBA core program project, they require you have a 10-month post-occupancy commissioning meeting. So ultimately, if we're showing starting our occupancy of the new building, call it January 1 of 2027, they'll want to meet with us and facilities at some point October of 2027 to go over how the systems are operating and any issues that have been ongoing and so on and so on. The commissioning agent will play a role in that as well. So that'll happen in October. And then from that point, you kind of, once that's done and the commissioning report is submitted to MSBA, then that kind of, you get kind of in the queue for MSBA's final audit. And typically that takes, you know, a few months or so. And that's always the end of it's always tied to a board meeting. So I'm showing us hoping that we're able to get final audit at their February 2028 board meeting. So it's a long haul, but they're all this long. Any questions on timeline? Mary, go ahead.
Just more of a comment, sometimes, and I forget, with the planning board and the conservation commission, sometimes these boards only meet once a month. So just keep in the summertime. So just
Yeah,
because you're
sure.
gonna be right in the summer. So just keep that in mind, in planning.
Good point. Yep. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. So the next item, so we had as new / other business, Chris, I'll hand it over to you. Chris, we'll get into kind of next steps for the design process.
All right. So with the project design, we're going to start, as Phil mentioned, the schedule, we'll start our design development in January, but right now we're kind of going through our project administration, right? We're organizing our consultants that have been working on the project through schematic design. And we're, you know, kind of getting a list of the deliverables when we have to submit. As Phil mentioned, MSBA has 3 distinct submissions, one in design development, 60% and 90% of CDs. So we're kind of putting all that together, getting, you know, they have a checklist that we've got to go through, what they expect to see at each stage of those deliverables. And we're putting together and developing a meeting schedule with the owners, representatives, and various staff. Now, during the previous 2 or 3 sections, right, PDP, PSR, and then schematic design, we met with conservation, planning, the police department, fire department, and a multitude of staff members at the existing Green Meadow School. We got a lot of information relative to security, to site planning, to the building design, you know, conservation, et cetera. So now what we're going to do in design development is we're going to meet with them at least once or twice more to build on that, to kind of, okay, now we've got a project. Let's get the permitting process going. We're going to meet one more time with staff members of key departments, the police, fire, et cetera, just to go over any last minute and final decisions and things that we're going to, you know, implement into the design. And like I said, we're going to just continue to build off of what we've done so far in the project. So our first phase will be the design development through construction documents phase. So there's three phases to that. We're going to build off the schematic design and important decisions. So things like the building committee, sustainability committee wants a ground source heat pump system with geothermal. So we're building off that. We're going to start getting into the nitty gritty, the details, the well design, et cetera. So we're not going to change any of those decisions. We're just going to continue to improve them and move forward with them. We are going to follow the MSBA deliverable submission schedule. MSBA has a very distinct and regimented submission schedule, and they have a very detailed checklist for each of those submissions. And it's done so communities and design teams don't get ahead of themselves, they don't miss things. We're very familiar with that. So when we're moving forward with the building committee and subcommittees, we want to make sure we track in a very, you know, progressive manner, from A to Z, if you will. We'll discuss all that during the various meetings and whatnot. Then as Phil mentioned, at the end of each of those phases, we will present to you the progress. There will be an estimate that has been obtained. We'll track that throughout the progress, see how our project is moving forward, determine if there are in fact any you know, items that need to be value engineered out or looked at, maybe hopefully included in, right? We want to take a value management approach and make sure we protect the budget throughout. As we get in through the 60 and 90% CDs, we'll continue to detail and coordinate the design, not only with the stakeholders, town of Maynard, the boards, building committee, but also with the design team from the various consultants, structural and mechanical, electrical, plumbing, the civil engineer, landscape architect, things of that nature. So that we have continued to make sure everything is working simultaneously throughout the process. That'll get us to the end of this coming year in 2024 when we'll put it out to bid. Some of the things we're going to be looking to do, Mark, question so far?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So I'm not asking this question because I anticipate there's going to be, but I have a feeling, given some of the feedback we received from the public in the past, that there is an interest and a belief that there should be public input into many of the individual design decisions that are made over the next year. And I'm not asking to come up with a plan to do that, but I think this committee should have a consistent message that we're giving to people when they ask that question, when we see them out and about or they attend a meeting. I just want to put that on the table for folks, because I think if we go back and just expect that we're just going to crank on our work over the next year, we're going to be sorely mistaken, because there's a lot of people that think they should have input for the next 12 months.
Yeah, Mark, that's a good point. We've encountered that on a lot of projects. Maynard has a very enthusiastic and engaged community, which is great. So what we generally recommend, these meetings are obviously open to the public, subcommittees, et cetera, as they have been, right? When we had the sustainability subcommittee meetings, we got a good amount of people from the town sustainability committee and the public. They were very engaged, very polite as to how they engaged the team. I think if that continues forward, getting input will be very crucial. We want to make sure it's an open process. But typically we suggest that their comments, their recommendations, their input goes through the subcommittee and then through the general building committee, right? And then those decisions get vetted out through you, but obviously everybody should be heard. I would agree.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I think it was good to detail that, just so everybody on the committee understands how that should or could work. So we're all giving one message to the public when they ask about giving input.
Yeah, and Mark, what the plan could also include is periodic community updates, right? We've done it throughout the process to engage them. And then, as we go through design development, when we're nearing the end of that phase, we can give them an update. Maybe we wait till the budget has been updated, the estimate. Well, we can discuss that, but I think it'll keep people, keep people in the know and comfortable with the process. So,
thanks, Chris.
You're welcome. Some of the design subcommittees that we typically engage, if you will include, number one, the building committee, right? So you're the kind of the end sayer, the decision maker, and you guys will have the overall building, general building and site design discussions. We'll present that to you as a group. We do have a schematic design. We have a plan in place. We have building elevations that have been developed, and we're going to continue to refine those. We're not going to make any huge changes, obviously, but just with some of the aesthetics and things of that nature with the building and the site. We will, however, get into or continue the sustainability subcommittee, right? That's important. We heard from Maynard, they really want a net zero ready, if not net zero building, ground source heat pump, all electric systems. So we'll pick up where we left off. I would assume it's going to be some of the same players and maybe some additional members that may be interested. And we'll go with that. Pick up where we left off. Ground source heat pump. We'll get our well designer on board, make a presentation. Our mechanical engineers will come back and we'll start getting to the nitty gritty about the systems. The other hot topic in schools for subcommittees is security and safety. We did have a couple of early meetings with the public safety people. Am I to understand the fire chief has changed? Maybe the existing one is retired. I saw some correspondence. So good. So we'll engage the new chief and their staff.
Yes, she's very, very easy to work with.
Okay, great. We have met with the police chief and the school resource officer. They've been very good. Actually spoke with them at the town meeting. And then members of the security and safety committee. And then you'll meet with our safety and security consultant. They do work nationwide. They've done a lot of schools et cetera. So they're very astute to the various levels of security. We'll talk about those levels, what works for Maynard, and getting exactly what you need. So those are probably the two of the subcommittees that we'll want to start setting up right after the first of the year. Maybe between now and then, as a group, you want to start thinking about who you want on that subcommittee from the building committee and or the public. And as we get through the process, once we get into construction, probably a good year prior to the completion, we'll set up our finishes and colors, and then FF&E and technology subcommittees. That's when we really start talking about the finishes and colors of the building. Our schematic design has, finishes in it already, but we'll start really fine tuning those materials based on maintenance, sustainable qualities, et cetera, and then get the color schemes going for your school. At the same time, we'll start picking out furniture and technology equipment that will be purchased through the FF&E procurement process. Those will come, like I said, come about once we're into construction and develop that plan. Any questions on any of this next steps? All right, we'll continue to talk about it as we move forward.
Thanks, Chris. So we have a bullet point here, next building committee meeting for November 27th. The goal is to get ours, Collier's design development to close out fee amendment to you all in the next week. And same thing with the design teams and seek your approval on those fee amendments at that November 27th building committee meeting. So we've been operating under a feasibility study agreement, both design team and OPM. So next step for that is to execute a fee amendment for both of those separate contracts to move forward. Go ahead, Mary.
No, just the remaining $116,000, I think. So that sort of just, we don't need to keep that in reserve, that we can pretty much expect that's gonna, not be used.
No, that'll continue on through the total project budget of 83.6 million. Yep.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yep.
And so to
Saving
your
money
point,
already.
so the thing too that's going to be important about the meeting on the 27th is that's the first of 3 votes. We take the first vote on the 27th, then it goes before the school committee, and then it also goes before the select board. And I don't know what dates right after that, but I think they're both that week.
Yeah, I think school committee. School committee. I think is December 6th. Yeah,
okay.
But you're correct. It'll be a 3-tier vote, similar to the project funding agreement. Yep.
Right. So hopefully everybody, or most everybody on here now, and some who didn't make it tonight, can make it for the 27th. I hope, because that will be our next meeting.
And ultimately, the fee amounts you're going to see are essentially what was carried in the project budget that was submitted to MSBA.
Yeah, to my knowledge, there's no surprises.
No.
Yeah.
It's just the process. Yep.
It's a process we have to follow in order to get this, finalized and approved by MSBA. Yep. Perfect. Go ahead, Mary.
No, I just wanted to ask Phil, could you send us these specific slides, the timeline, and then this one? That would be great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. I'll send you the whole slideshow. Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Well, those would be also, they'll be tied in with the meeting minutes, right, Phil? So you were adding the slides in the back?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Then that's great. That's perfect.
Perfect. Any other questions? And I'm not rushing anybody along. I don't see any other hands. I just don't know who else has a question or concern. No, looks good. I think that's it for the agenda. Am I right, Phil?
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
Looks like somebody's hand just
Jerry, I
popped
think
up.
you got one question from Bob.
Yep, go ahead, Bob.
I just wanted to ask you if the lighting controls for the new school are going to be Wi-Fi.
Chris, can you answer? I don't know.
Sure. So Bob, depending on the system we go with, typically they would have some Wi-Fi capability. Is that something you're
Okay, that was
interested
my
in?
only question.
Was that okay,
Thank you.
Bob? All right, you're welcome.
Yep,
Thanks. Good question. You're thinking
But
of
I-
details ahead of a
Just to
lot of
jump
people.
in, yeah, just
Go
to
ahead.
jump in on that. So Chris, like that's a prime example, right, of a back and forth you're going to have with facilities to make sure we're not, over designing systems, right? Systems they feel comfortable they can operate, but also, making sure it has some functionality to it that they can operate efficiently and so on. So that's a good question.
Yeah, absolutely. Bob, we will be engaging you and your staff throughout design development, the CD process as we move forward.
thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions? No? I would certainly entertain a motion for adjournment if somebody would like to move and somebody else second that.
I will move it.
Well, hold on. Is there
Oh.
anything to talk about for the green energy analysis or not? Not yet?
Good
Ah,
point. Good question.
oh, yep, good. All
Well,
right.
so I sent you their report.
Yeah.
The one, so they sent it to us. The design team reviews it. I review it, and so we had some comments for them. They made some edits, but there was a final edit that needs to happen that they were waiting for some window detail specifics from the design team. So what I sent you still has to edit the window system. So they were showing that we have double glazed, but we have triple glazed. And the window types need to be adjusted. But outside of that, I think it shows pretty well in terms of energy model, shows us in line with what we have to be for the Mass Saves program, EUI, et cetera. But if anybody has any specific questions, or if you want to put together specific questions, feel free, and we can kind of get them answered by the green engineer and or have them at an upcoming building committee meeting.
Did this go out to our whole group, like Ken and the green committee and all the green?
Well,
and everything?
I sent it to the full school building committee.
Yeah, perfect. That's what I want to know. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I read it. Hold on a half a second, Mary, but I looked it over. I thought it looked pretty good to me. That was my opinion anyway. For what I did read it.
Yeah, no red flags. I didn't know if
no.
there's anything to do or to, but I didn't realize it was a editing in progress thing. So that's good.
Yeah, it's in progress, and yes, it was sent to the full committee. And if Ken forwarded it to the sustainability committee, I don't know that. I don't know. I assume he did. We've had no comments back. At least I've not heard anything. I don't think that Chris or Phil have heard anything back from Ken or from the sustainability committee.
No.
This is Mike. I can check in with Ken and the sustainability committee to see that communication has taken place.
Sure. Perfect, Mike. Thank you.
Is there a timeline when we need to get things back to you, Phil, if there's any more last minute things?
Yeah, I mean, I would say you have through like the next month or so, right? So that's our energy model for schematic design. We're going to get going with the next phase of design, start of the new year. So there's time.
Okay.
And yeah, what I would say is the green in between, the green engineer and the design team going back and forth. It's pretty clear we're kind of right where folks thought we were going to be at this point in design. We still got to kind of get through the detailing process and further building envelope energy modeling and all that. But it looks good so far.
Yeah.
The next month's the least productive of the year, so that's one of the reasons I was worried.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. Mary, you had your hand up first.
Yeah, no, so is this the type, the green engineer, the final product that they create, is this what is part and parcel of the construction bid? So that the contractor knows this is what should be part of the project, or how does that work?
Well, no. So what they put together, well, it does a couple things, and Chris, jump in if I get it wrong. But one, based off of the updated stretch code, we got to go through this, what's called a TEDI modeling effort to make sure we're in compliance with that part of the updated code. So it serves that purpose. And then it serves the purpose of going through the Mass Saves incentive program to get the Mass Saves rebates.
Right.
But in terms of the stuff you're talking about, the bid documents, drawings, and specs, that's separately put together by Mount Vernon Group and their consultants.
Okay, so at what point do they
But
put it together?
But
Yeah.
ultimately, the green engineer is modeling off of that information.
Okay, all right,
That
thank
makes
you.
sense. Yep.
Bob Savoy, you had your hand up. Go ahead, Rob.
In regards to the glass, is there any consideration for that 3M film for safety?
That'll be discussed at safety and security subcommittee meetings. Yes.
Yeah, because whether
Thank
it'll
you.
be a 3M film or another film or a different type of glass, because there's some various glasses that are out there now that are also shatterproof, bulletproof. And that'll be discussed, as Phil just said, with the police and with fire, because each of these, what they do well for security in some instances don't do so well from a fire standpoint, fire suppression and fire spread. So some things can be used in certain windows, some cannot be used in certain windows. So that's a whole level of detail that will be discussed. And Bob, you'll certainly be a part of that, because it'll be with police and fire and the safety security subcommittee. But good question. Good question. And you can count on the fact that since I've been on the safety committee with the school district since 2016, I'm going to be pushing that a lot. So that'll be fairly well covered.
Mhm.
Any other questions? If there are none, I'll go back to the first request for a motion that I
Yes, I'll
had.
make a motion that we adjourn.
Okay, and is there a
Seconded.
second? Thank you, Mike. Okay, via roll call. I'll call everybody. Justin, not here. Chris,
Yes.
Greg, no. Mary,
Yes,
Hillary, no. Brian,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Rob, no. Jennifer,
Yes.
Wayne,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mark Anderson,
Yes.
thank you. Anthony, not here. Matthew,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Ken, not here. Josh, not here. Charles, you still here? You ready to adjourn?
I'm on mute. Yes, I certainly would.
Okay, very good. Rob, you okay to adjourn?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. And Katie, I'll ask you, want to adjourn?
Sure. Yes.
All right, thank you. We're
Personalized
taking the vote.
invitations to leave.
Yes, that's the invitation to leave. You are correct.
Right.
And thank you, folks. I didn't beat Nick's time of the October meeting.
No, you
That
didn't.
was done at 5:35. This is now 52 or so.